recognised level throughout ASEAN, then they're going to be transferable, say about 2018 or 2017 or so. Is the UK looking at anything to counter these ASEAN and the China free trade, the FTAs that they've already signed?
Yeah, on the free trade agreement, what the EU is negotiating with individual countries in ASEAN, not all of them in one together, are our own free trade agreement. So countries that are really far advanced in the discussions are Singapore, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Thailand is now coming in as well as Malaysia. The ones who are going to be far behind for obvious reasons because of their relative economic development, and Burma is a special case. So Cambodia, Laos and Burma will be left behind in the current way. So that will give us access into the market in the same way. But the issue that you're also raising has a UK angle and interest, which is we're interested in selling vocational training and UK standards into the marketplace. So, you know, whether a healthcare worker with a British recognised certificate, whether they're from the Philippines or from Thailand, everybody would know what quality mark that actually achieves. And the British Council is working on similar things.
Malaysia, for more than 20 years, their whole health system is British underpinned through the qualifications. So I was alluding to that. So you'd think the healthcare market would be something in vocational training that the
I think
UK
it's inevitable, because if you've got the free movement of labour, I mean, we've seen this in the European Union, which is that essentially why can somebody from France work so easily in the UK, whether it's in the medical profession or running our trains or whatever, is that their qualification is recognised. And that's inevitable, that if you're going to have movement of labour within ASEAN, then people have to understand that if somebody claims that they're a painter and decorator, that they can actually do that to a certain standard.
Is that including language skills?
Well, again, I mean, I think if you look at what's happened again in the European Union, I think we are getting far better at understanding each other, and it's not just English, I think.
Why would we suddenly introduce a qualification for a spousal visa to pass an English test to reside in the UK? Why would we do that? If we're opening the doors throughout Europe, then we put in this requirement at this late stage.
The government basically decided that there are clear benefits to have labour mobility and immigration, and the UK has benefited from that, and so the rest of the EU. But the issue then is about what we describe as community cohesion, that people coming in should at least have the basic tools that they need to join the community that we are. And I think language is a key tool. I'm sure that people like yourselves who are living in Thailand, if you speak Thai, you have a better time and a better life here than if you spoke no Thai at all. It's natural.
Do you think public opinion... Australia had a very similar policy called the White Australia policy, which took them 20 years to pull apart. If this is a mistake, do you think the people in England will speak up about this, or do you think there's very strong on-the-ground support for this policy inside the UK?
I think if you go back to the election period, this was something that was an issue that a number of voters voiced, that they were concerned about whether we had the resources to deliver what the migrant communities actually needed. So this current government's view is that by limiting immigration and the quality of life that people enjoy in the UK will improve. Because at the moment there is, like many other countries, there is a resource crunch, and the public services, health, education, need to be curtailed. And if the demand is open-ended, it's going to be problematic.
Do you think part of that problem with the huge influx of immigration in the past 5 years is part of the cutting back on university places in the past 24 months?
I think that is a different issue. I think what has happened is that, and this is a slight difference in the previous government's policy and this government's policy, the last government decided that university education should be more universal, and the whole sector was increased. A lot of college and further education and polytechnics became universities, and so people going into university, the catchment of the population increased quite dramatically. What the current government is having to decide is that with limited resources, you go back to probably more conventional graduate market, and that's why I think people are seeing this curtailment. But I don't think this is a situation that will be permanent. I think it reflects the economic cycle more than anything else.
Mr. Ambassador, could I ask you if you're going to raise tourist safety with the Governor tomorrow?
Very much so. I think there are two aspects to tourism safety. One is that this applies to whether British tourists are travelling in Europe or within the UK or even as far away as in Thailand, is that just because you've left home doesn't mean to say that you can forget the basics in terms of wearing a seatbelt, wearing a helmet, what happens when you drink beyond capacity that you have.
The airport, yeah.
So our first job really must be to try and get the message across that people take responsibility for their own safety first. Secondly, in a place like Thailand and other places, it's the issue of compliance with the law. I mean, it has long been the law here that motorcyclists should wear helmets, but it's a law probably more ignored than obeyed. And we would certainly be encouraging the police and others to enforce that and to make sure that people who rent out motorbikes simply can't rent a bike out to somebody who A, does not have some sort of license to prove he's qualified, and B, is issued with not just a helmet but a helmet that actually works. So I think yes, it's an important part of my message to the authorities here, but also to the travelling public.
What about the particular Phuket's patio problems of jet ski scams and in Phuket at any rate the high price of tuk-tuks and tuk-tuk thuggery?
If I could deal with the jet ski issue first, it's something that I raised in Patong when I visited there as well. And we've certainly registered our concern not just here but in all parts of Thailand where this is a common phenomenon. And in some places they've said that they're going to try and introduce some sort of licensing scheme. In some places they've talked about insurance. But in truth, you see a mixed picture. You see people, and I've seen this here, I can't say that every single jet ski operator in Phuket is crooked. I think there are many instances where nothing happens at all. In some instances there are genuine instances of damage to jet skis, and in other instances there are gangs who are extorting money from British tourists. So yes, it's something we'll be raising with them, and I think it's a phenomenon that needs to be eradicated. Not only that, I think there's a view that many people are coming to that jet skis actually ruin the environment in which people actually enjoy their holiday. I mean, you basically don't want to be there with your child with a bucket and spade and have a jet ski roar up and skid across the beach. So I think there's a safety issue from that point of view as well. There's a place for these things, but I'm not sure that public beaches is one of them.
Well, there's the environmental side of it, and there's the environmental issue as well. I mean,
Yes.
the amount of wastage, I mean, what damage it does in terms of reefs.
Exactly. I mean, we talk about bleaching of coral reef here. Nobody is entirely sure what the cause is, but I can't imagine that.
Well, it's dumping directly into the sea.
Yeah, so I can't see that's helping.
I think on the sort of very vicious side of the scale, banning them completely. I mean, and saying that they shouldn't be allowed near tourist areas at all.
Then when it comes to any form of public transport and taxis, tuk-tuks, this is a global thing. And I remember many years ago Bangkok used to be a problem where it was a bit of a gamble when you got into a cab whether you'd arrive at your destination the shortest route or whether they would be going around to various gem stores and other places before you actually got to your destination. Those instances are reducing and there's greater compliance with metering. In many other tourist resorts there are published charts which actually give you, if it's fixed, it's fixed. In some places it's extremely expensive. I remember holidaying in Mauritius where the tariff was there but it was extremely expensive to go from A to B. I think there is an issue here with tuk-tuks. I know that they've now agreed on a maximum fare, but that still does not eradicate the problem. I think, as any tourist should do before, is to try and negotiate the fare before you step into the vehicle, rather than discover at the end of the journey what it should be.
How closely have you been following Martin as your honorary consul's advice or reports on the meetings with the governors every 3 months?
I think that's a really good thing, and right at the outset I've been saying that without the honorary consuls, without Martin here, we simply wouldn't be able to deal with the needs of our citizens, both the ones who live here and the ones who travel as tourists. And what that does, when the honorary consuls go collectively, is that the authorities can't simply say, oh, well, that's just a British problem or it's a European problem or whatever. What they hear is a collective voice, whether it's immigration queues or problems. But also, I think it's true to say that honorary consuls don't go in just simply to complain. I think they're part of the industry in a sense that everybody basically wants Thailand, Phuket to thrive as a tourist destination, because if it's doing well, then travellers and residents here will have a better time anyway. So I don't think we go in there, and certainly Martin doesn't go into the Thai authorities here with a list of everything that's wrong. It's also to say, well, how can we help you to do what it is that you're trying to do? A good example is something that we've been concerned about in the embassy, is what actually happens to victims of sexual assault, whether they're men or women, but there have been instances of younger women. Now the issue there is that even if the Thai police want to be helpful, they haven't really had the training or the examples from other countries to sort of say, this is what we actually do with people who are traumatized, and these are the best practices. And we're hoping that over the next few months, that's one thing we might be able to help the Thai police with. But that's another example of having not just a negative agenda, but something that's constructive as well.
Mr. Ambassador, sorry. Do you have any reaction to the news that the Prime Minister of Thailand is British as well?
I never comment on anybody's personal immigration or nationality.
So you cannot say if the embassy has ever issued him a passport in the past?
I've already answered the question.
So you just saying, in terms of being constructive, one of the issues I was thinking of was retirees, expat retirees here. Now, in terms of the visa here for, say, a married person like myself,
yes.
I mean, I can do it two ways in terms of the financial aspects. There's 400,000 baht in the bank, or you can do it over 40 per month. Per household is 40,000 baht, and that's your financial aspects of getting a visa. Retirees, I believe, are just 800,000 baht. Now, with everything that's going on in the world, recession, inflation, exchange rates, would there be some way in terms of your involvement now in helping with policies to help and being constructive for retirees to make it a bit more easier for them to actually gain a visa to live here?
I'm not sure how right it would be for the British Embassy or the British Ambassador or indeed the British government to talk to Thailand about something like that, because we wouldn't entertain the Thais telling us about how we should run our immigration policies. I think for something like that, there's a legitimate role for the associations of the communities here as a stakeholder to go and influence and lobby the Thai government. So whether you do that as British nationals or part of a wider network, that's certainly open to you, but I think it would be fundamentally wrong for a foreign government to tell another government how to run.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't suggest it. I mean, but helping with the policy, maybe advising and trying to get people who are here.
I'm not sure London would entertain such help.
Just to backtrack a little bit on the sexual assault, there's a lady who was reported through the Daily Mail and other press earlier this year. One of the problems I heard was that there was the chief police officer for the province said we don't have the officers who have skills to debrief a sexual assault victim, and we don't have those with the skills in English. Specified that as a language. And to me, after what I've just heard, that might be an opportunity for where the embassy might be able to help provide assistance in the training. Would that be accurate? Would you be willing?
That is exactly what we're looking at, is how best can we help the Thai police here and elsewhere to deal with those sort of situations. And I think in many respects, the help might be already here, in a sense that if you look amongst the community here, I'm sure you'll find retired police officers. If you look at people who have worked in the British Health Service, I'm convinced that if you look at the people who are willing to volunteer that sort of help, it's readily available in Thailand. So it's a question actually of almost matching that resource that I know exists in this country to the people who need the help.
Well, to me that would beg the question, if we're going to go to the, what is it called, the Know Before You Go campaign,
yes.
Vital Things to Know, come to Phuket as first point of contact in any shop. Do we say it's the police? Do we say it's the tourist police who have the language skills? Which one does it say at the moment? To be honest, I don't know. If you ever tried dialing 191 here, you'd quickly understand how far the English skills go.
I'd have to defer to the local expert here.
If they actually answer. What the police try to do here is, for tourists who are in trouble, they have the tourist police. Tourist police have certain jurisdiction of what they can do and what they can't do in any given case. So they're trying as much as possible. The tourist police have had a campaign going out. You have to dial 1155 when you dial 1155, there'll be somebody there being able to speak English on the end of the telephone. And then wherever you might be on the island, if you want the tourist police to attend, they will attend, but they will probably attend with a police officer from that jurisdiction within the island, because it's that police officer then who goes in and makes the various statements and whatever. So the tourist police, you know, have tried their very best here over the years. Then they've got all the volunteers now that are helping them in various different activities, and they are the ones that have the language skills. And there's generally at least one police officer or more who is a full police officer rather than a tourist police in each police station around the island who can actually speak English. One hopes that they're on duty when the problem comes up, but if they're not, then there's somebody who will come in and help. The issue of policing the island is the police. The tourist police are there to provide assistance to tourists with regards to policing and acting as a sort of a caveat between the tourist and the various police stations. And that's how I see it.
The short answer for advice would be call the tourist police first.
Sorry?
The short answer there would be call the tourist police first. That way you'll have the communication.
That's what the police department wants to encourage, is that if you are in trouble as a tourist, you contact the tourist police first. They will guide you through the situation.
Martin, do you want British tourists and residents to contact you? Because at the moment, the embassy website doesn't have a reference. Even I couldn't find it. I looked several times to you or your telephone number or your address.
It was there last year, and then they revamped the website, and it will go back in there somewhere. But because Phuket is not a full consular office as such, only an honorary consul. Some honorary consuls work from home, some have an office, and so I have absolutely no objection. I don't want everybody to contact me first. You know, if it's a situation that requires policing, I'd rather than contact the police and then contact me. If I can help them in any way, then obviously I can do. But I'm also not really encouraged to offer a 24-hour service, whereas the police do offer a 24-hour service.
Right.
So I have absolutely no objection to my telephone numbers being an address being put on the website.
Right. You've had 2 deaths this week, is that right? 2
Yes.
British deaths. Is there a point where you would recommend to Bangkok that they set up a full consulate here? Is there any kind of level or situation?
I think these things are under review every year, depending on how many people are living here, how many people we know are living here, how many people are coming as tourists. So every year there is it's reviewed as to how busy each area is with regards to whether a full honorary consul is put here or not. So definitely something that is always looked at.
And are there many requests for, say, visas? I know you can't do it, but do people ask you, can you process the visas here?
People will phone me and ask me for anything that they think is related to something in the UK. From why they're not receiving their pension to just a myriad of things. But visas is something that I will get called about and emailed about. But it's very easy to be able to pass them on to the department that deals with visas. And at the end of the day, I represent the Foreign Office in Phuket rather than the Home Office. And all visas are given out by the Home Office. And therefore I've had no training or guidance or experience in dealing with it, so I can't answer questions. But I can definitely point them in the right direction to the people who can.
Just going back to your tourist police for a minute, how effective are the tourist police volunteers, the foreigners?
I think sometimes they can be very, very effective.
I mean, are they usually on the scene when the tourist police are called? Do they bring them along, or?
No, the volunteers sort of have set roles that they have patrolling roles. Generally they patrol with another tourist police officer or a full police officer. And then they have roles where they sit at the command post and answer general questions. And then you have the volunteers who work in the immigration department, and they act as the information desk inside the immigration department so that they can point people in the right direction with what forms they need to fill in for what service they require. But I think it's a very effective way of providing that assistance, and I think that the police force here are grateful that there are people that can help them to get through, especially the language barriers. I mean, I just know here in the British International School, for example, there are 36 different nationalities. So if that's 36 different nationalities in the school, how many different nationalities and languages are actually spoken in Phuket in any one given day? Try to work that one out yourself.
And one of the things we're going to do in Phuket, Pattaya and a few other places are to run regular surgeries where we will bring a team of people from the British Embassy into the centre, whether it's a hotel, whether it's the shopping centre, or somewhere where we know that if people know that we're going to be there on a given day. And my intention is to not just have consular people there, but to actually bring in people from the UK border agency as well, so they actually deal with this issue. So I think it is important.
When will they start?
We're planning on doing it this side of the summer, or as we call summer in the UK, this side of June.
July.
Yeah.
June, July, yeah.
Perhaps we can bring Michael in here as consul. There have been reports that you're going to cut back on UK staff, consular staff. Is that included? To have more local staff worldwide, not just the embassy in Bangkok. Is that true?
I think worldwide we've been going that way. I mean, I've been working on Europe before I came over here, and certainly we have localised a significant number of staff across Europe, and I think that's going to continue given the economic situation, and I think it will apply in Bangkok as much as it does across the rest of the world. So there will be, probably by the end of the 4-year economic period that we're looking at now, more UK-based staff localised and the slots taken over by locals, yes.
And what is your view on, would you like to set up a consulate here, and how would you justify it?
I think Martin answered that really effectively. I think we review it really carefully. We need to keep a very close idea on the numbers and the type of work. And I think you said there'd been 2 deaths in the past week. In talking to Martin, as I do regularly, these incidents can come in clumps and then can go away for a period. You get different weeks. So we need to look at the overall trend rather than actual individual incidents. We keep a very close track on that. Work very closely with Martin and the other honorary consuls, and are constantly looking at ways of doing it better. I think this is what's really important. So I think we need to review the work we're doing and make sure that the advice that people can get is readily accessible. Now that many people can get stuff from the internet, we can point people very quickly to how to get visas and passports. We can get people down here pretty quickly to help Martin if there is a real need. We can assist from my team in Bangkok with the visiting of prisoners here in Phuket and elsewhere across the country, and so share the burden. So I think we rely on Martin as our sort of first response key local contact, but where we can, we will do a lot of that work from Bangkok.
Can you just confirm, to your best knowledge, how many British live here or registered living in this region, and also the number of prisoners as well?
Can I let Martin answer that?
It's very difficult to assess how many British people are living in Phuket, but the assessed number is somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 that probably live here for anything from at least 6 to 7 months of the year or more. And then of course you've got the people that come in very regularly for a high season for 3 months. It's very difficult to assess, but I definitely think it's somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 people. And at the moment we're assisting 4 British nationals who are in Phuket prison.
And the number of tourists, there's about 850,000 for the whole of Thailand, but again for this region?
If there's 850,000 British tourists coming into Thailand, as Phuket being one of the top 3 destinations for tourism in the country, I think you can say there's definitely at least a third, but I think it's probably somewhere between a third and a half of that 800,000 coming into Phuket, maybe higher. It's very difficult to say again, because if they arrive through Bangkok, the statistic goes to Bangkok. If they do their immigration in Bangkok, so it's difficult to assess. But if you just look around and see how many additional hotel rooms have been built in Phuket over the last 5 to 8 years, you know, there are something like 60,000 hotel rooms now in Phuket. It's a very, very big number. And of that, I still think British tourists coming into Thailand are probably in the top 10. So if you just look at the general numbers, again, if you've got 60,000 hotel rooms, it's probably somewhere in the region of 6,000 British people on holiday in Phuket on any one given day, at least. So that's how I would look at it. But it's very difficult to get the actual true numbers because of the different border crossings that there are in Thailand.
Do you have any point of contact or anyone to assist you in Krabi or Phang Nga or even some of the other southern provinces?
We have a consular correspondent down in Trang. So he often helps with situations that we have in Krabi. And only just recently, as recently as only 4 or 5 days ago, we were in discussion about looking at, you know, the possibility of finding somebody on Phi Phi Island that might be able to take on the role of a consular correspondent. And also, next after that would be somebody in Phang Nga in the Khao Lak area. So again, we're always, as Michael said, we're always reviewing us on an annual basis, and it just so happens that just recently we were discussing this because it was on that annual basis that we were in Bangkok only 3 weeks ago. No, I would definitely be looking at seeing if we can source somebody in Phi Phi that could at least be there and be known by British tourists that are on Phi Phi Island, that if they have any issues that they need immediate attention, then there's somebody on the island who might be able to help them. So again, it's something that's part of the review for this year.
I can see that we obviously can help get the word out, what you're trying to achieve and so on, to people who live here. But tourists who've gone, you know, they're here for anything from 3 days to a couple of weeks. How do you get the word out to them?
Yeah.
What are the main channels?
Sure. I think we've tried a number of ways in the past, and we're learning each time we evolve. I mean, many of you recall we had a system called Locate, and the idea there was that any tourist would be aware of this, and they would simply log themselves on and report their movements. Now, experience has shown us that that's not how tourists behave. As I was saying, that my sons, when they're traveling, forget to call me, let alone find where the Locate site is. So we're going to have to think about how is it that a tourist actually looks for information when they need it. And typically, a tourist will go into do a Google search, or they'll go into Facebook or Twitter, and if they've signed up to be a follower of the Foreign Office, then they'll navigate their way to where the information actually is. Which is why the British Embassy in Bangkok has now made itself present not only on its website, but has a Facebook account and now a Twitter account. And what that now does is actually gravitates towards what the travelling public is doing, rather than a typical government thing of saying, here's our notice board, and unless you can read this, you'll not be informed. So I think that's the way things are going to have to go. We're also increasingly looking at many countries, and in Thailand I want to have another discussion with the major mobile phone operators, which is where as soon as the British phone holder switches on roaming from the UK system to the Thai network provider, an automatic message goes out to say what the British Embassy contact actually is. In many countries we've successfully negotiated that. I'm hoping that I'll be able to do that as well.
I noticed you tweeted before you came down here that you were coming here for partly pleasure and business, but there was nothing on the official embassy website saying you were coming.
That depended on the experience here, in the sense that the embassy's Twitter account will have picked that up and relayed that back onto anybody who's following the British Embassy on Twitter. But in terms of the write-up of what I've learned here, it would be better for me to do it on the basis of actually talking to people. And yeah, next week people will be able to read on our website as to what it is we saw. If you go back and look at my trip to Pattaya, you'll see exactly what I mean. We actually recorded all the things that we talked to the mayor of the city, to the immigration people, the police, etc.
You tweet a lot about Liverpool too. You're a Liverpool fan, yeah?
Yes, absolutely. I've had this
You know that Liverpool legends or the past players coming down to raise money for a youth football home in Phuket in
Yes.
June.
Yes.
You're going to come with them and play?
Well, firstly, when they came on a bit of a recce visit about 3 weeks ago, and they didn't have time to see me, so I wrote them a letter saying, "Dear Liverpool legends, we are here, and I'm a big fan." And yes, we certainly have plans to contact them. Now, typically these things are organised by their commercial sponsors and others, so it's not, they're not at any at our beck and call in that respect. But I'm pretty sure that if John Barnes and Ian Rush get a letter from me, they might do something with us, either in Phuket or in Bangkok.
Yeah, they're having 2 games, one in Bangkok, one here. But you'll come down with them, will you?
If they allow me, yes, it would be great to do so.
You play yourself?
I used to, but as you can tell, I have not exactly kept up my my sporting endeavours. But my embassy colleagues are encouraging me to pick up a tennis racket.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'm going to have to stop and go with our cameraman.